Good evening, and welcome to another webisode of How to Stop Wasting Money, or Stop Wasting Money with Ineffective Advertising. I think that's the name that I kind of on the fly gave this this webisode or this webinar. It's your weekly webinar. I'm Tim Burt from timburtmedia.com, Timburt media.com. And if you have a question that you would like to ask me, if it relates to commercials, producing commercials, voicing commercials, writing commercials, or what your direction should be when creating a commercial, please, you can email me at timburtmedia, timburtmedia at gmail.com. Okay, so nobody's in the chat room right now, and that's okay, because I got some really good questions right here from a very famous person, Lynn Hoffman. You may know her as the host of A&E's Private Sessions. She is also a world-famous, world-renowned voiceover talent. Lynn Hoffman, excuse me, great voice, super nice person. And she was kind enough, see, she watches this, so this tells you how good that this webinar really is. At least that's what I tell myself. Anyway, Lynn Hoffman emails 3 questions, and let's cover them in order. And they all relate to music or sound effects in a commercial. I believe a couple weeks ago I touched on this, using music and sound effects in a commercial. When is it appropriate? Because we've all heard commercials that don't have music or sound effects in them. So when should you use them? When should you not? Well, first let me say this. Radio and television, when it comes to putting music in their commercials, are their own worst enemy. And I say that in this context. I say that because if you were to play a commercial that what we would call dry, in other words, that means no music, it's just straight voice. There's no jingle, there's no music of any kind, it's just dry voice, straight voice. A lot of clients, unfortunately, have been conditioned to think that, well, it just doesn't sound right. It sounds like there needs more. You need to have music behind it. I'm going to disagree with that. I couldn't disagree with that more. Here's when you use music in a commercial. Music in a commercial or a promotional message should only really be used to support the message. In other words, if you are doing a commercial for a Mexican restaurant, yes, you want to have some Mexican music. You know, you would think, yeah, you're not going to put some Italian music or banjos behind it. An Italian restaurant, or say, for example, maybe there's an exhibit coming to the local museum dealing with space. You could do something very sparse, something very ethereal. You could. It's to support the message. It's to support the message, not become the focal point of the message. Now, if you're doing a concert commercial, obviously, totally different circumstance. The music is the star of the commercial, or it's equally the star of the commercial, because let's pick an artist, for example, Shania Twain. I don't know why that just popped in my head. I don't even listen to Shania Twain. But if Shania Twain was coming through town, you want to play as many of the Shania Twain songs as you can. And the other thing people are looking for, the main thing people are looking for, when do tickets go on sale? Where do I get them? How much are they? Et cetera, things like that. So, gosh, there's something in my throat tonight. So, Lynn's first question: do you have a go-to audio effects library or libraries that work with most projects? Yes, I do. The music library that I use the most is one called Megatrax. It's Megatrax, and this is, in my 2 decades of being in this industry, this is the best music library that I have ever heard. It is produced in Hollywood, and no, I'm not getting paid by Megatrax. Let me just full disclosure up front. It is phenomenal. I hear it in TV shows. I hear it in movie trailers. I hear it in commercials. I hear it in promotional announcements on other radio and TV stations. It's a phenomenal library. Other good ones out there that I've used or use right now, 5Alarm is really good. Pro Music, really good. The thing about music libraries that you have to keep in mind is, yeah, Megatrax does have a lot of stuff. 5Alarm does have a lot of stuff. Pro Music too. American Music Company, Mitchell Greenspan, is really a good guy. So check them out too. American Music. Every music library has their strengths and their weaknesses. So really, it depends on what kind of project you're working on, and that will dictate what music library you should use. It really depends. You have to really just experience them for yourself. But those four, I would point you in the direction really for almost any project that you're looking for. And how do you choose the audio bed that complements your finished spot? Again, Lynn Hoffman from A&E's Private Sessions emailing some questions in. How do you choose the audio bed that best complements your finished spot? So in other words, she's asking about the music behind the commercial. How do I pick the best one? I kind of touched on that before I talked about the different music libraries that I use. How do you pick it? Well, let's just say that let's say you record a commercial for, I don't know, a shoe store. And you record it dry because maybe the message is phenomenal. And in fact, on my blog at timbertmedia.wordpress.com, search for the entry that I did a few months ago about the shoe store. And in fact, I did a shoe store commercial that you can use if you have a need for it, that I would air if it were my money. And if you listen to that commercial, there's no need for music for it. But if the client hears it and says, you know what, it just doesn't sound like a radio commercial. It sounds like it needs music. It doesn't need music. But if that's what they want, okay, fine. In that case, I've always described music in those situations. If it's not necessarily supporting the message, if it doesn't have an ethnic influence, it's not a concert commercial, I've always described that stuff as wallpaper, because really that's what it is. It's not the focal point of the commercial. It's just to kind of fill space. So acoustic guitars work well. Acoustic guitars and piano, think, just cheesy, like doctor's office kind of stuff. Dentist, not dentist office. That terminology and that stereotype is really old school, but it does apply. So I've always called it wallpaper. So you might want to, American Music is really good for that. So is Pro Music and 5Alarm, and Megatrax too. They have some really good stuff. And finally, from Lynn Hoffman from A&E's Private Sessions, when do you feel it is best to use sound effects in a commercial / promo or promotional announcement? I'll tell you this, using sound effects in commercials or promos, it's like cooking with spices. It's really, really easy to overdo it. And a lot of producers make the fatal, tragic mistake of overdoing it. I was at a seminar recently, and one of the examples, a commercial production seminar out in Los Angeles, and one of the examples that was played for us was a promotional announcement, and it was talking about, it might have been Thomas Jefferson, or I can't remember the historical figure, but it started off with, he was born in 1785 with blah, blah, blah. And when the voiceover said he was born in whatever year, you hear the sound of this baby crying, like a newborn, like, wah, wah. Why? Everybody understands what it means to be born. You don't need to support that with the baby crying. So you see what I mean when I say it's really, really easy to overdo it. If the sound effect, it's the same as music. If the sound effect supports the message, and that's really the key. If it supports the message, yes, the baby newborn crying supports the message, but is it necessary? So maybe I should say if it necessarily supports the message, or if it helps strengthen the message. That is when really then sound effects should be used. And also, there are a lot of bad sound effects you can find out there online. It really is the sound effect good. That's the other part of the equation. Is the sound effect necessary and relevant, and is it good? If it doesn't fit those two criteria, don't use it. There's no need to. So that's my opinion. You could bring somebody else in here, another producer that would tell me I'm totally way off base. That's my opinion. But again, it's like cooking. It's very easy to overdo stuff. Now, if you're a producer and you want to put a bunch of sound effects in a commercial like that for your demo, okay, great, do it. But don't do it on something that's going to run on the air. It's always better to err on the side of caution or exercise restraint. Do we have any chats? No, we don't. And no questions have come in. This is disappointing. I guess a lot of people are watching this recorded, which I do appreciate. So if you have a question for next week's show, next Tuesday's webinar, just like Lynn Hoffman did, and thank you so much, Lynn. I really appreciate your questions, and I hope I've answered them for you. timbertmedia@gmail.com. timbertmedia@gmail.com is the email address. You can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and WordPress. Just search Tim Burt Media. I'm Tim Burt. I hope this has helped, and I will see you next Tuesday night.